Okay. Yeah, but I'm also concerned about the art. Like, I'm not talking loud enough.
Do a sound check colorblind.
Yeah, so.
Okay. I'll just assume this works.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, we'll get started in about
Cool.
a few seconds, 30 seconds maybe.
Yeah.
So I'll just also introduce you guys and then you go and give All right. Greetings and good morning and welcome to our session, panel discussion on Campus IL and how do you manage development among 4 continents. So I'm looking forward to some intriguing discussion. I think we're going to start off with, so we have our illustrious panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then Anna will give an introduction to the discussion.
Hi, I'm Xavier Antoviaque. I'm from OpenCraft. I'm OpenCraft CTO. So we've worked with Anna and the whole Campus IL team and Proversity on that project. So yeah, nice to meet you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Krishan Meetoo. I'm one of the founders of Proversity, and it's been a privilege sort of working with Campus, and we're sort of a full stack online learning provider. You already mic'd up.
Yeah, I don't need the mic. So, hi, good morning, and thank you for coming. My name is Anna. I'm the CTO of Campus IL, and we've been working together with Krishan and with Xavier and with edX, of course, for the last half a year, even a little bit more. And I would like to share with you the insights of our project. So,
excellent. Go for it.
Start. Oh, okay. Okay, so a little bit about our project, about what's Campus IL. So Campus IL is part of Digital Israeli, an initiative called Digital Israel. Digital Israel mission statement is to leverage the opportunities within the digital revolution. Like Israel is the startup nation, as you probably know. And we want to bring all the good things and all the technology and all the knowledge of the startup nation to the government and to all population of Israel. So our mission is to accelerate economic growth, reduction of social economic gaps, and making government smarter. Campus IL is, again, part of Digital Israel. It's the national digital learning platform. So our mission is access education to all. And we have five paths to how we access the education for all. First of all would be academic courses, universities that create MOOCs for population and their students. Thank you very much. Thank you. High school matriculation alternative. So that's a very exciting project, actually. There are students learning for 2 years in a blended model, and instead of having matriculation exams at the end, they just learn and have all the exams on our platform. Government professional development. Iran, our CEO yesterday spoke about micro-learning for teachers. So that would be one example of how we use our platform for government professionals. Vocational training and 21st century skills like digital literacy, for example. Internal platforms, we have 9 courses in English on the edX.org platform, and we have our own open edX instance called Campus in 2 languages. 3 languages, English, of course, and Hebrew and Arabic. Both Hebrew and Arabic are right to left, so there you go, our first challenge. Example of some courses. First course is the academic course of Tel Aviv University, a very good one. If you know Hebrew, you should try it out. Academic course in physics. Another example would be the teacher training micro-learning. It's like around 30 courses, and we're preparing for the next wave. Again, spoke a lot about it yesterday. And a third course would be, think also exciting example, it's a workforce skills for senior citizens. Again, we're in the Ministry of Social Equality, so one of our missions is education for everyone, so we want to help also the senior citizens, that's a great course. Some numbers, we have 75,000 unique registered users, 40,000 learners in more than 30 courses, 22 academic institutions that participated in the pilot. We're still on our pilot. And we're now working on 100 courses that are in development. Okay, so specific requirements for campus. We're a national digital learning platform. So we have challenges we wanted to tackle based on that. One of them was internalization and localization issues. Blended learning, we're using extensively blended learning. Platform improvements, both for learners and instructor. We want to improve the user experience. Increase engagement, and we believe it can be done with mobile apps. So all of these requirements were mapped, and we came to something like 90 features defined, something like that. So again, we're very ambitious, startup nation. So yeah, we have a roadmap of 90 different features. Okay, so like half a year ago, I think it started a year ago, but we actually worked half a year ago. We joined with Perversity and OpenCraft team, both very, very professional, and edX is helping us along the way with PRs and everything. So we joined together to find a way of working on this national platform as a team. A diverse team that is located in 4 different continents, and each one has like its different specialities, but we think that's the magic that brings us all together. So Krishan and his team came to Israel to make a design sprint during which we defined the scope of the project. We separated it into 3 phases and assigned each feature for each phase. We agreed on the development methodology. We'll talk about it later. We defined a workflow of a feature with very clear stages, responsibilities, and outcomes, and introduced a lot of collaboration tools like Slack, Jira, Google Docs, and yeah. So that's like, in a nutshell, the process that we defined. We'll get into it later, but as you see, we have a real clear definition of responsibilities and outcomes and workflow. One feature that I'm really, really proud of, like we talk about numbers where we're now, but this is the feature that I'm really proud of, sign-up form. One of the challenges that we've noticed was onboarding of users. Like we have senior citizens that want to work with our platform, and we had like, I think 70% of all the support issues that were handled were around sign-up form and around onboarding. So this was the first major issue that we tackled, and like the team was working around it in the last month, I think, but that's the result. We have very interesting solution there, and we'll discuss it later, but all of our changes are upstreamed. So the community will be able to enjoy that as well. So current status and numbers. We have 18 features addressed already out of the ambitious list of 90. We have 28 PRs on 10 features approved and tested by campus. And we have already 4 PRs approved by edX. Yoo-hoo!
Outstanding.
And that's it.
All right. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is, if you have a question for Anna or any of our esteemed panel, just raise your hand. You'll have to shout it out, and then one of us will have to repeat the question so that it gets recorded and streamed. Mm-hmm. Please wait until you're called on to ask questions. Anna, one point of clarification. Sorry. Did you say that there's a combination of edX and OpenEdX based courses?
Yeah, we have 9 courses running on edX.org in English, 9 academic courses, and there will be more by October, and the other one are running on campus because of the language. They need to be in Hebrew.
Excellent. Okay. So this sounds like a really ambitious project. How on earth did you get this off the ground? How did this come together in the first place?
We like ambitious projects first. We're an ambitious nation.
Well, how long has this been in planning? Like, I mean, how long is it, when was this first conceived, and how long did it take to go from conception to actually realization?
So I'm rather new on my job, but I think it was around a year ago, something like that. The idea of development itself, the courses were already introduced 2 years ago, but the thing, the dedicated instance started like a year ago, something like that, and we wanted to start developing. So it's, I think it's the last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did these people get involved?
Okay, so that's me.
Actually, I can talk a little bit about the beginning, because I think that's an interesting part of that project. So very early on, the approach that the campus project had was really community-based. I still remember Yoav and Eran coming to the different Open edX conference and asking a lot of questions about the right way to do those projects. And that already stood out, is out of the ordinary, because the traditional approach for starting project is that people just start coding something in a corner, really rushing it in 1 month to get it released, and don't take the time to think about the more long-term implication of the project. And I think it's not a surprise that at the end, the campus project is one of the best structured projects that we get to work on, with from the start really an approach to target the long term and do things that are innovative on the short term, but really think about how does that build something on the long term. So I think like probably the very first discussion were like almost 2, maybe 3 years ago already. Mm-hmm. So that.
So it was at in Stanford, actually, the edX conference. Actually, we've got Eran here. We also have his partner in crime, Yoav, who unfortunately couldn't be with us because he's getting married. But again, what you realize when we speak about this project is we've spent a lot of time together over the last couple of years, and it's kind of got a family spirit in a way, and it's speaking to a bit part of Israeli culture that we've kind of embodied, of kind of being our own digital kibbutz. Can I get away with that? I mean, it was really cool, and so we started the conversation about 2 years ago, and it's just been sort of an ongoing conversation. So, actually what's incredible is all of our 3 directors were involved in flying over to Israel at some point, or meeting, Eran and the team at some point, just to kind of even structure the project together. So we've got some fun stories, but, I think it's just been an amazing, as I say, conversation to kind of bring it to fore. And actually the other thing I'll just add just quickly is it's very rare you get a project like this. I mean, we're talking about a national MOOCs platform where almost like every university will eventually be on it. We're talking about every vocational training institution. There will be a marketplace. We've talked about the roadmap in the future, but there'll be a marketplace for content producers, and there'll be a marketplace for technologists to produce, future X blocks. So this is actually its own ecosystem, which is what I think is really revolutionary about it. And so we're just putting in really the infrastructure now, but it's something to have, two of, like edX's oldest serving partners on board. And then we also have edX as a big contributor and part of the process. So we'll talk about that in more detail. But as I say, it's kind of it's an incredible initiative. And so it's why it's taken so long to get off the ground. And I'm sure the first thoughts of this maybe were even older, but I'm glad we got here. Yeah.
So what are the ultimate goals? Like what do you want it to be in, say, 5 years? I'm hearing you want all the universities involved, you want high schools involved. When you look forward 5 years, what's kind of the ultimate goal of what you'd like it to be?
So again, we're a national digital learning platform, and we're working in different verticals. So one of the biggest projects would be like we're launching a full degree in computer science with the Consortium of Universities working on that. That would be a great thing. Another big project that we're working on is preparation for the Israeli SAT exams, which is also a big issue in Israel, and it's going to be a game changer. So yeah, we're tackling a lot of, we're tackling this all different vectors, and we aim to be the national digital learning platform.
That sounds like a lot of moving parts, things to keep in, in check and in place. How do you coordinate all this? I mean, I can't imagine coordinating anything with these two guys. They must.
Actually, yeah.
I definitely think the biggest challenge is finding out where we are in the first place. So.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Can talk a little bit about this, because it's true that that's something that was really part of the preparation. Like given the scope, the scale of the project, the different teams, the locations, and etc., there needed to be a robust process, and also something that again is part of like ensuring the long-term viability of the project. There has been a focus from the beginning to make sure that the work is aligned with what happens on the upstream project on edX platform. So that means that not only we need to coordinate between ourselves, but we need to also coordinate with edX, with the product vision between two projects that have commonalities but have also differences. So that's actually one of the things that the very first thing that we worked on as a team was to come up with that graph that you showed earlier, Anna, about like the different parts of the process, and especially ensuring that at the end, the features that would be developed would be useful to campus, to the larger edX community, and would end up in the main code base in a way that is satisfactory for everyone. So like mainly the way we like split the responsibilities between these. So Proversity would do a lot of the development work, writing the line of codes and etc. On our side at OpenCraft, we are used for a long time to work upstream first and making sure that things end up in a proper way, in a way that can be useful to the larger community. So we would guide the design of the functionality, maybe help mediate some of the discussion with the upstream reviews, make some reviews of our own. And this whole project, without this whole process, without entering too much into the details, is really structured in a way so that everyone will have the right input at the right time, and especially the discussions with edX, with the other reviewers of the edX project would happen early on and all along the process, so that to make sure that everyone is aligned along the way.
No, okay.
Actually, just thinking about it, one other thing to add is just actually probably it's quite helpful explaining just how we went from. This is an incredible project with 97 features, and we're going to be delivering in not only just English, but Hebrew and Arabic. So, actually what's interesting was actually we used the conferences as a great meeting point, because I actually remember it last year was actually the first time I think OpenCraft ever all met in one location, which speaks to the distributed nature you have. And for us, it was actually more of a case of we actually have physical bases in multiple places. So it was, again, an opportunity where we could actually meet in a way that we hadn't in a little while. So it was this amazing thing where we actually set up a kind of a pseudo design sprint, which is something we're known for doing when we create because we get into very complicated projects. So it's just a way of kind of rationalizing kind of what is the scope and what is the depth of what we want to create. And so we actually all got together and we had all the stakeholders. We even had edX. We had like Fanil from DevOps. We had like various perspectives from edX as well to kind of chime in and help. Just make sure, because I mean, like there's from features that from ranging from CCX to the mobile. These are features that could be potentially quite powerful. So it's just making sure that we're on track and that we can work with edX collaboratively going forward. And so just generally in the week, we have like weekly stand-ups, and it's just a very good way. So if you're working with multiple stakeholders, communication is key. And like it's the only way we're able to, be able to pretty much, we have follow the sun sort of delivery and development. Like we're talking from, you know, from Australia through to, you know, Boston. We have like touch points all across the whole planet. And like, if you think of that as a workflow, if you play it right, you actually gain a day or two, because we're also working to, you know, the sort of Israeli working week as well. So, I mean, just being able to maximize all these, the distributed nature in we work has been really excited.
Yeah, so I would like to add some thoughts on that. So first of all, the coordination here is the key. The collaboration and communication is the key. We have a lot of stakeholders. It's Perversity and OpenCraft and edX, and also within Israeli ecosystem, we have stakeholders. We have Ministry of Education working with us, and other ministers and other customers. So it's a big challenge, but we communicate a lot. And we have, I really want to thank here for Jill that's helping us on OpenCraft side, and Lila, which is not here on Perversity side. So we're constantly slacking, emailing, talking, like a lot of communication. I think that's the key. But the thing is, as Krishan said, that you can actually gain from that. Like when you have a diverse team, you can actually gain from that.
Yeah, I've been involved in many large open source projects, and the difficulty is always around communication and coordination. So I'm curious, like, if you're running this project in an open source way, what are the mechanisms that you use? I mean, when you're designing new things, when you're I don't know, fixing, when you're doing your sprints, what are the things you actually use to coordinate amongst each other? And actually, first of all, how many total people are we talking about that work on Campus IL?
I think it's, well, developers, I think it's around 8, but we have so many other stakeholders. So I think it's all around 20 people, something like that, okay. all in all. And, and from different languages, time zones, like we really spread.
So walk me through it. What does your collaboration stack look like as far as tools you use and how you coordinate things? Who wants to?
Krishan?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, speaking to the open source nature, we try and keep communication as open as possible across all the teams. So we have, you know, let's just talk through communications first, because I think that is like principally quite key. We use Slack as a backbone. So we actually have a collaborative Slack channel. So you can do that. It's quite a nice way when you have your own internal Slack team and then you have partners. So we sort of have that as sort of an immediate stream. Now, one thing we tend to work with, just because, again, the distributed nature, the idea is, yes, you can use Slack for synchronous communications, but also asynchronous is key as well, because we do know, you know, where everyone's situated. So there's a little bit of empathy required to kind of work to that rhythm and cadence. So, you know, if you have someone in Australia and someone in Boston trying to communicate, it goes the other way around. So it's kind of not, it's somewhat counterintuitive, but it works. We've got it to a good workflow. Documentation, so that is also very important in terms of how we kind of go from, we've got a, you know, when we talked about 97 features, it was a spreadsheet which had been beautifully kind of ranked, and, you know, we had various attributes that were measured. But actually now you need to turn that into something that's real, that feels like a tangible thing. Our team are quite good at conceptual design, and so we've kind of really focused on that. And so what we do is we try and use, you know, Google Docs, Google Slides, whatever we can, pretty much pick up the tool that is most useful at the time that we can openly share with the rest of the teams. And then, of course, we have Jira as kind of our development workflow backbone. So that's very, very powerful in terms of just making sure we can, you know, take the sort of, you know, everything from a discussion on a specific feature concept. So while we'll have the design documentation, we can also then have comments from a technical point of view, and just really start collaborating. And then, of course, we use Git to really for our sort of change control and sort of as we escalate features in development. And then we, of course, try and include edX at really the beginning, because, you know, you can burn a lot of development resource unnecessarily. Even if we get a small nuance wrong, that cascades over time. I mean, some of the features we're talking about may have 200 plus hours of development, so that's quite a serious amount of input. So yeah, that's kind of really, is anything to add? I was just wondering. So that's kind of a brush through.
No.
So maybe just like emphasize the asynchronous part of a process. I think especially with a team across 4 continents, it's really key. And actually, often when people think about being in different time zones, people think immediately about difficulties. But if you structure this well, this also brings a lot of good things. Like it means that a lot of the the discussions will be in written form, in a thread, will be constructed, because you know that what you write, you will have one thing that you can write to that person that will wake up in 12 hours from now and will be reading it. So you tend to be much more careful about what you write in that case, and document things maybe in a more structured way. So it means that one of the advantages, for example, is that when you add someone to the team, they can go through that thread and actually be at the same level of knowledge than someone that would have been there all along. So at the same time, on one side, you have like the challenges of different time zones, but they also bring interesting things, especially in the context of an open source project where you need to coordinate with upstream, which will be asynchronous also.
And I was just about to lead into that because you mentioned a few times needing to coordinate with edX, and edX is, you know, we govern the Open edX project, and so I wanted to hear about what that is like. You know, what are the challenges there? How do you coordinate with edX on the Open edX project? Yeah, you? Okay.
I can answer. I can compliment afterwards.
That's a great.
Well, yeah. Well, coordinate with edX. Well, it will depend. Sometimes you don't coordinate that much as you wait after edX. But
I assume I'm here to take bullets for edX.
No. I'm a little bit mean because that's actually a great part of this collaboration is that edX has been really supportive of the current campus project, and the reviews actually go well. It's mostly a question of just integrating it, like we said, from the beginning and making sure that that's taken into account. Let's say that a way to look at that would be that edX lives on its own time zone that is far away, and you just need to plan for that, and then you're good. Then actually it works really well if you really integrate that into the workflow.
Yeah, totally, and I think it's planning up front, but I mean, we do have process for escalation, so they have been being really open and honest. Times where, you know, we've had to stretch our, you know, we've had to kind of really honestly break our deadlines because we just couldn't get feedback quick enough. And so that has been an honest concern. And it was an ongoing concern when we first met in Madrid, actually, to really formalize the working structure and relationship. But since then, we've realized ways we can, you know, kind of escalate things with the team. So, you know, we've both got fabulous relationships with edX, over and above what most other partners will. And so we just kind of leverage those. I mean, it's, again, you know, we're trying to get through one of the most ambitious projects in open source education, full stop, not even just Open edX. So it's, you know, we have to win, and that's the way I look at it. So it's kind of, I'll say to my team, whatever, by hook or by crook, let's get to the end line in the nicest, most consistent way possible. So if it is, you know, asking a friend, you know, even going 50-50 as you would on a game show, you know, we'll get there. But as I say, it's about the relationship, and that's what this all is. So we have a great relationship with edX. We kind of use that as much as we can, and that enables us to do some great stuff. And I'm just wondering if you had any last points on this.
Yeah. So the way we we build this process is that the way that we build this process is that we check with edX like twice. The first time would be after the technical review. And the second time would be after finishing the coding. So it's important for us to get the approval on the technical review, and once it's approved, so we're continuing our development. I think Xavier will talk later on about the development methodology. So we really want to be as close as possible to edX, but still want to add all the features and all the requirements as we define. So yeah.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. I'd like to have some questions from the audience. We've got one immediately. Go ahead and shout it out, and then I'll repeat it. Go ahead and shout it out, and then I'll repeat it into the microphone so that it can be streamed. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. The question is, how do you manage the different culture between people that is around? You have your own organizational culture and you just put it on any place, or as an organization you have to adequate to the culture? How does
Okay, so the question is, how do you manage all the different cultures that have to come together to coordinate this massive project?
So I can start with answering that. I think communication, as Krishan said before, is the key. So we do have different organizational cultures, but we communicate a lot synchronically, asynchronically, and we just make sure that we're always aligned. So if we have certain deadlines or certain requirements that need to be met, we just align and talk a lot. I think that would be the key.
For sure, and yes, we have a lot of, and that was a fantastic point. But I also think what was interesting is actually just making time for one another. So we do have we have video calls pretty much weekly, bi-weekly. We have a steering committee, and also what's really good is we actually make time. So we've gone out to Israel a few times just to get really, I've actually went on a mini birthright trip, which is amazing. But it was really so that we could understand, because we're on the design end. We really need to understand and empathize with the culture. So it's doing the extra legwork. Then we also have, our friends at OpenCraft as well, who have a different working structure. And we have offices in London, Boston, Cape Town, and as of 2 days ago, Salt Lake City. So we have bases, which are great. But then we have also had to figure out how to be distributed. And so just making time for one another. So I know sometimes Leela, yourself, and Jill will have time together just to catch up. And that is phenomenal. I just would highly recommend, yes, we have a lot of digital tools, but actually there's no better replacement for actually getting touch time to get to communicate each other, understand each other on a personable level. And also the truth is, we're really blessed to have a lot of professionals around. So whether it's our respective teams, they are all deeply empathetic. And I think that is why we've been able to execute some of the best projects so far. So actually, when you put really smart, empathetic people together, it's no surprise that they get along. They all figure it out. Sure, there's challenges, sure, there's disagreements every now and then, but these are constructive. And we're really fighting for one thing, which is create the best possible product.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, you, sir, in the back.
Yes.
Oh.
So first, thanks for sharing your experience. So I will be facing a similar problem or challenge in the coming month. So we have to launch a course in English, French, and of course Arabic. So my question is, do you have a discussion board component plugged to the course? If yes, how are you handling all the multi-language?
Okay, so the question is, when you're launching a course that's multilingual, how do you handle discussion boards as part of the course? That's a good question.
Okay, so actually, yeah, that's a technical deep dive, but we have the discussions are handled by the TAs of the course team, and so they usually have the specialist that can answer you in the language that you wish. I think that would be the answer then. It depends on the course. Most of the courses, there are courses for people that speak Arabic, so you have a TA speaking Arabic that can help with the forums. And if most of the courses are in Hebrew, so every TA speaks Hebrew. But it depends on the course, and most on the course team. It's not a platform standard. The discussion.
Hang on. So sorry, we have 1 minute left, and I want to get one last question in.
Sure.
So. As the edX representative on this panel, what would you like to see edX do differently going forward in the next couple of years as we work with you on this project?
Okay, so we have a great agenda for our next steps. We have mobile coming up. We have blended learning, and we enhanced the CCX for that. We are also enhancing on marketing side. So I would like to see edX helping us with that. We really want to keep the cooperation that was until now with all teams and everything, and we would like you to be responsive and yeah.
Am I hearing more responsive?
Just help us with that.
For sure, and I'd also like to add, so definitely speed is key, because again, because of just the nature in which we work on, it's almost like a baton race across the planet. So, we're trying to keep up with that. So speed is key. But I'd also mention just a little bit more communication of what's coming up, being just more, in all honesty, open about, the roadmap. And even if edX hasn't got things figured out, which often is the apprehension I appreciate, and also there's just a huge ambition here, again, that would really, really help, because then it helps us line up the stars, basically.
And that gives me a great opportunity to plug the Developer Summit this Friday, where we can hopefully talk about things like that. So I think that I've been given the red light, which is telling me to stop. But I appreciate the discussion. I think it's been enlightening for everyone here, and thank you all for stopping by. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Krishan. You were great. Your idea of panel, it was a really good one.
Yeah.
Oh, John, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Maybe Mayran, you want to join? Yeah, Jill.
Yeah, sure.
Woohoo, that's a historical picture.
No, these are the real stars. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
That's fine. Yeah, we should do like at least a... Yeah.
Come on.
Come on. Fine.
Yeah, sure.
We need another one because Xavier was closing it.
Ah.
Sorry.
Open edX.
And another one.
Somebody else close his eyes.
כל הכבוד, איך את מרגישה?
עייפה?
כן, שזה...
לא, אבל בסדר, היה בסדר.
היה
נראה
מעולה,
לי...
הייתי ממש מעולה, גם הזכרת יפה מאוד שם בשאלה...
עם הדיסקשן. רגע, אני אנתק את שריר. Oh, sorry, I'll just remove mine. Oh, thank you very much
No problem.
for doing that. Hope you didn't get you in too much trouble with it.
No, not at all. No, I'm part of my job is to cause trouble, so it's okay. But no, it's a wonderful project. I love hearing more about it. So
Oh, okay, thank you.
yeah, let me know how I can.
Maybe I'll show them like what are roadmaps. I shared it with Nimisha and Breakout and Berkai.
And I was starting to get into that, and I was like, we just didn't have enough time. But I would like to hear more about that.
So if you're here tomorrow, and
I'm
so
here
maybe we'll catch we'll make some time
Are you
to
coming
sit
to
there.
Developer Summit?
Yeah, sure,
Excellent. Okay,
sure.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks. רגע, אני צריכה את ה...
אנה, תורידי את המיקרופון.
כן.
בקבוצת וואטסאפ עכשיו.
שמה?
שומעים אותך.
Celui-là aussi.
que j'y installe?
Tu peux l'installer, oui. Tu veux-tu?
You need the microphone?
I'm not speaking,
No.
they are. I'm just.
1, 2, test. 1, 2, test. 1, 2, test. 1, 2.
There's only one is
Okay.
1, 2, test.
We take 5 times in total, so
test.
we
1,
did
You can switch it, but it's a little
Test.
longer than the handheld.
Can we use
Handheld is better.
Okay.
Handheld is better? Okay. You will a handheld?
Where do I put this? Okay. So how to show it in the screen?
Yeah. And how to move the presentation?
Yeah, with this you press the right one.
The right one.
Try it. Okay, yes.
Rocío. Okay.
Is it up?
Yeah, your mic's not live. It's streaming, so.
Okay.
So when, okay, you are presenting.
Hello, streaming.
Okay. You want to move or maybe I should
Oh,
move
you
this,
start.
yeah.
Okay. So yes, we. Okay.
He's going to present us and then you start.
Okay.
All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce Rocio and Danielle. They're going to talk about an overview of the technologies used in OpenEdX.
So hi, welcome. Thanks for coming. Well, we both have started working some months ago in OpenCraft, and we have been working on many different features and implementing new things in different areas of edX. And we both are amazed at how complex a project it is, how many pieces there are. So we will explain to you a little how to start understanding the code, how to get more familiar with the code. It's just an overview of the different components we have found, a lot of random interesting things. And we will start explaining the basic things for people who still don't know about them, then different things that we found in the code, then different things that we find in a running server. So Rocio will start speaking about the simple things, the main components in edX.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to start with a quick overview of the main components, just to give a quick introduction for those who are not familiar with it. So first, when we talk about the LMS, that stands for Learning Management System, it's the most visible part of the project. It's where learners take courses and where instructors can manage their courses. Technically speaking, it's a Python Django application. It uses both MongoDB and MySQL for storage. Mongo for storing the courses, and MySQL for learners' data and configurations. Currently, LMS is running on Python 2. There is the will to move it to Python 3, and I know edX is working on splitting up the tasks into small chunks so that the community can start contributing on that. So this is just a screenshot of how a course looks like. You all know, and then this is the instructor dashboard. Then I want to talk about CMS or Studio, that stands for Course Management System. This is the course authoring environment. It is used to create and update courses. It is also built with the Python Django stack. It stores courses to the same MongoDB database that LMS uses, and yeah, Both Studio and LMS are contained in the edX platform repository. So yeah, this is a screenshot of how Studio looks like. Here you can add new sections to a course, edit the sections you have, delete sections, update the settings, anything. So next is the discussions forum. The forum is where students and teachers communicate within a course. It is an external component written in Ruby. The repository is called CX Comment Service, and LMS uses its API to display the discussions. The comment service uses Elasticsearch for indexing the discussions and allowing to search. So this is how the discussions forum looks like. Then we have insights or analytics. Insights provide staff members with data about the learner activity, such as enrollments, engagement, background, and performance. It is divided in 3 different parts. The pipeline, that it's a batch analysis engine. It takes care of large amount of data, it analyzes it and produces aggregated output. It does this using complex workflows with this tool called Wishy that is from Spotify. And it uses other third-party projects such as Hadoop, Hive, Pandas, and Jenkins for scaling. Then there is the data API that allows you to access that information that is produced by the pipeline. And then there is the dashboard, that's where all the analytics are displayed. That is Python Django application. So this is just a view of a graph that shows you weekly engagement of the students. You can see how many active students are there, how many watched a video, how many tried a problem. This other one is visualization of the demographic distribution of learners. And yeah, and there are a lot of them. Then there are the mobile apps. OpenEdX provides 2 mobile apps, one for iOS and another one for Android. On the mobile app, you can access the course, see videos, check discussions, read the handouts. And then there is e-commerce. E-commerce is a service for managing the courses catalog and handling orders for them. It extends OSCAR, that it's an open source framework, and allows to manage the catalog and handle orders. So it also supports payments with CyberSource and PayPal. It's just a screenshot of how the admin for the e-commerce looks like. You can have statistics here. You can add new products, edit the products you have. So yeah, manage everything. And this is a checkout order. And then last, it's the configuration repository where it's a supported way of running OpenEdX. The configuration phase is managed by Ansible. There are a number of playbooks that take care of setting up the OpenEdX services. So yeah, next.
Okay, so that's the basic things that you will see everywhere when you work on OpenEdX. Then I was more interested in what is exactly in edX platform. In the edX platform repository, where we find LMS and CMS. This is the edX platform at GitHub, GitHub edX platform. I wanted different ways to visualize what is in there, how many components, where are the big components, which are complex, which are old, which are new. So I want to give you many ideas of things you can try. You have seen many visualizations in the previous talks. In this one, I want to encourage you to try different ways of visualize things. I tried just to check how big are the files, but this wasn't really helpful. If you go to the wiki, you find a diagram, an architecture diagram like this. They call it the monolith, and it's written in this wiki that actually it can be outdated. It's out of date. They call it the monolith for one reason, because it combines everything together, LMS, CMS. I recommend you to watch also the talks from yesterday and from previous year, also from Nimisha, about architecture of OpenEDX, where it is discussed that the intention is to split this in more parts, like LMS by one side, CMS in one side, and even front-end and back-end by different sides. Then here I start the more crazy ways of seeing things. I did this visualization of embedded circles with a program called 3Vs written in the top. This is just to see where are the files. Actually, it's interactive. If later you want to see it interactively, I can show you. It's just to see where are more files, where are lots of files, where are little files. It's something that you can try just to see it in a different way. But I'm interested more in finding the classes. I had this idea of I want to see all classes in edX platform, LMS, CMS. So grep will help you. Just a simple grep like the one below can find all the classes defined in edX platform. I just had the idea of counting them, how many there are. I found there were around 2,000. Is that a lot or not? Well, 2,000 it was excluding the tests. If we count the tests, there are 4,000. That's a lot. A lot or not? Well, it depends. I think it's not too many classes. With time, you get acquainted with many of them. I think Django, for instance, the Django project has more classes than edX. I tried just for fun, let's put all the classes together to see what happens. Okay, this happens. So it's not so many, actually. But okay, this is not helpful yet to see what is in edX. Do you know that Django extensions includes a command, graph models, to create a UML diagram of classes? It's automatic. I think it's not enabled by default. Django extensions, by the way, is the same program that gives you Shell Plus to try interactive things. And it includes this command, which can generate the diagram below to show all models in edX platform. As you see, it's very big. When you zoom on it, you see things like this, like the relations between classes. It doesn't match perfectly the database. Last time I tried, there were some relations missing. But again, it's a new way that you can try to explore and see things in a different way, in a new way, to discover new things and to see, wow, this thing was connected to that other one. But there's not only edX platform. There are many other repositories in the edX organization in GitHub. I counted around 210. And again, funny stuff below let's try to download all the repositories in edX just to see what happens, just to see how many. And not only for fun, but for profit. Because when you download all the repositories, later you can search for code much easier. Later there is a link at the end of the talk, so you can get these commands also. This is just to download all the repositories one by one. I encourage you to download all the repositories. It takes like 1 GB only. Most of them are just forks that were done to fix some bugs, like in NLTK, Ansible, something like this. But many of them are related to edX. Why download all repos? Here's an example. I once wanted to find a particular parameter, a strange thing called user ID map, for instance. And because I had all the repositories, I could do a grep through all the repositories in edX. That AG is actually, it's like grep, but if you don't know it, you should try it because it's much, much faster than grep and faster than grep also. I time it, and look, it takes less than 1 second to do a grep through all the repositories. So I found that that particular variable or concept was was referred to in analytics exporter and in the documentation, but not in edX platform. So again, this takes like 1 gigabyte, so it's very useful to download it and use it for greps. Apart from the packages in edX platform repository and in the edX organization, you will find that the platform refers to external packages like Django and many others. These are defined in the requirements files. These ones. There are requirements for Python and for JavaScript. And some of the requirements, of course, are very big, like Django. Some are very small. I didn't find any way to compute the size of everything together, but of course, it's very large. In particular, in JavaScript, there are, well, because of NPM, there are like more than 1,000 dependencies, but most of them are dependencies of dependencies. Actually, the direct dependencies were very few. If you are curious, they are defining those files. I forgot that a very useful feature after you download all code in the same directory is that you can do this. This is a function to open a random file in the current directory. Sometimes when I was bored, I just ran this to open just any file, and every time you run it, you get something new about edX, like about cohorts, about tests, about aggregation, statistics, anything. You can repeat it many times. I suggest you exclude the migrations also, which are not so interesting. And it's again a new way of trying and learning different things. Okay. Another thing you can look at, or that maybe could be interesting, well, let's see if anyone finds it interesting. Just file extensions that we find in edX platform. The most used ones are very normal, are fairly common, like yes, we have lots of Python, JavaScript, HTML, the usual thing. This was just for edX platform. Yesterday in other talks I saw more statistics about this across all repositories, where we found that there were a lot of JavaScript files, for instance. If you like obscure or random useless things, you can concentrate on the more strange extensions, like who knows what is a .feature or .mustache. Some of them can be useful to learn about new things, new technologies that you didn't find before.
Feature is for lattice tests.
Yes, exactly.
Mustache is template engine.
Actually, I forgot about that one. What I know is that those ones that have a tilde in the end is not actually an error. There are some files like that, like the one txt tilde. But yes, there is one particular component called lettuce for describing tests, and it uses these .feature files. But I think it's being deprecated to be able to use bok choy more. I found a better way to visualize what file extensions there are in the code. Again, only in edX platform. Taking the previous diagram of different circles and balls, I did one with a bit more colors. This is again edX platform, and I divided things in 3 categories and the rest, like Python, JavaScript, websites, and in gray it's everything else. So with this I am seeing that, well, there is CMS, there is LMS, then to the left there's common, and we see that there is a little of everything in LMS, a little of everything in CMS, and that's how it should be, because the goal or the next steps should be to separate it and have the CMS in one side, the LMS in one side. So it's good already that each component is more or less independent. What I don't know is how it will be in the future, or how it will be cut into different pieces. I recommend again to see yesterday's talk about front end, where it was discussed that we could even separate the back end and the front end. So we could have for Studio, for instance, actually we have it already in GitHub, Studio backend, like github.com/edx/studio frontend. That's only the front end for Studio. So I imagine that component will have only JavaScript and React things. We found also lots of different components or subcomponents, or what I call subworlds. Like if you work in edX, you will find that you have to learn about one particular topic, which has its own architecture, very complex, and everything you learn in there, later you cannot use it for the other components because they are like different subworlds. Some of them, for instance, that you will find a lot is Xblocks. Xblocks is that thing that you can add in Studio through those green buttons. That's how you see it, that you can add things. I was curious also about what is an Xblock in edX platform. That code in the right, it's something you can run in the shell. Also a different way of exploring things. I just took the class Xblock and I asked, that's a way to ask in Python for who inherits from Xblock. And you find many, more than that didn't fit, many classes that are Xblocks, like vertical Xblock. If you have time, that's again another way to start one by one, checking, okay, this one, what does it do? I didn't know it before, so you can research one by one all the Xblocks. Like a vertical Xblock, that's what you see in the left. It's, I'm not experienced with that one, but I think it's the one that puts things one after the other in the course, one below the other. More subworlds that you find are things like problems, the problems architecture to create questions and answers inside a course. There are many ways of doing it, like open response assessment, the kappa problems, and these graphs you can find them in the wiki, in edX wiki. And again, it's one example of a particular subworld of things that have their own architecture. Another subworld is front end. Like, as was explained yesterday, there are lots of changes right now in front end. We are using lots of technologies, and we will be moving to more technologies. Like, we are using Sass. We will be using more and more Bootstrap and React. You can correct me if I'm wrong later. We're using Mako in the templates. Mako is like a template engine. We have already a component called Paragon, which is a collection of React components. And Webpack, Backbone, underscore, jQuery, so lots of things. Okay, and another random thing. Let's see who knows most of these ones. I did a script to find all the acronyms that I found in edX, because I found too many and I was forgetting all of them, like what is CCX? Yes, that's really a script to grep for all the uppercase letters, to exclude the common ones. That's how I procrastinate. So you can test yourself to see if you know the meaning of those. Some of them actually are not related to edX, they are just referred to, like XRDS, is something about XML web services. LTI and SCORM are more important, of course. Some of them are just internal things of edX organization which are referred in the code, like TNL, that's teaching and learning, that's something some focus group in edX. Okay, we can continue looking at what actually runs in a server when you have OpenEDX already installed. So.
Okay, so on this slide, you can see the services that are running when we are running OpenEDX using the dev stack. So the dev stack is a way to quickly set up edX for development purposes. It provisions edX and runs all the services for you without the need to do it yourself. There are some services here that you already know, like forum, e-commerce, I already talked about them. There is also the two edX apps. Those are LMS and CMS. And then there is Mongo and MySQL. But then there are others that maybe you're not familiar with, like the course discovery. That is a service from which you can request aggregated information about courses, search for them, request catalogs. It is mainly used by the e-commerce service, and one of its uses is for listing the catalog. Then there is also the credential service. It keeps a record of completion of learning material. Right now it's only working for programs, but yeah. The idea, I think, is to move credentials to that service too, certificates to that service too. Then you can see that there is also Firefox and Chrome. Firefox is used by the JavaScript and box choice tests. You can also use Chrome to run them, but the default is Firefox. And Chrome is used for the end-to-end tests. And then there is also Elasticsearch that is used by course discovery and forum applications to index courses, index comments, and then be able to search them. Then this is an example of what's running on a production sandbox. There are some differences compared to the dev stack here. You can see there are some new processes running and some others that aren't running, like Chrome or Firefox. One of the ones that is not running on dev stack and it's running here is XQ. XQ defines an interface for LMS to communicate with the external grader services. So, for example, when a student submits a problem in LMS, it is sent to XQ, then XQ has the problem graded by an external service, and it sends the response back to LMS. Another one of these you might not know is Notifier. Notifier is a service that takes care of sending daily digests of new content to subscribed forum users. The Notifier scheduler task just take care of triggering this on a periodic basis, and the Notifier salary workers do the actual work of sending the emails. We also have the certificates here, which are in charge of generating the certificates. It's reading from XQ and processing the certificate request and posting a JSON back to the XQ server. I also wanted to talk about the external services that are supported by edX. One of them is LTI. It stands for Learning Tool Interoperability, and it's a standard. It lets you add external components to the courses. Could be textbooks, interactive assessments, or any application that supports LTI. You can also configure edX platform as an LTI provider to allow other external services to use it. And then there is also a possibility to add third-party authentication with either OAuth for services like Google or Facebook. SAML, that is a standard mostly used by universities and corporations. And also you can set up LTI as an authentication if you are using edX as an LTI provider. Then I wanted to talk a bit about the APIs that are found, which are a lot. So yeah, one of them is the enrollment API. It lets you access user and course enrollment information and allows you to enroll a user in a course. It's a Django application and it's included on the edX platform repository. Then there is the user API. It lets you view and update user account and preference information. It is also a part of edX platform. And then there is the data analytics API. You can get course activity, course enrollments, grade distribution, answer distribution, counts of users that are viewing a segment of a video, things like that. And then there is the discussions API that is provided by the comment service for elements to communicate with it. And then the discovery API that is data aggregator from the different APIs to collect the data, collects the data and aggregates it. It's mostly used by e-commerce. And last, I wanted to talk about settings. So there are a number of settings that you can use to configure your platform. And from simple settings like email addresses to enabling or disabling some services that you don't need, like, I don't know, certificates. So in edX platform, there are a number of modules that are used for setting the different configuration options. To prevent the duplication, they are modules import values from other modules, as you can see on the diagram. And then the Ansible playbooks generates the JSON files. It generates 4 files, like 2 m.json files, one for LMS, one for CMS, and 2 auth.json files for LMS and CMS too. Yeah, all the security sensitive settings and data are on the auth.json files, and the others are in the m.json files. These are used so that they are not contained on the repository and we can easily override them. Then there are other kinds of settings. You can also configure specific settings for different sites on LMS. So depending on the site, you can change the email address from which you are sending emails from, or yeah. And this can be done on the Shangwell-me. There are also other settings that can be changed on the Shangwell-me, like comments, commerce settings, and third-party auth settings. And yeah, then last is the core settings that are available on Studio, on the advanced settings tab, and there you can change things like course display name, allow anonymous comments on discussions, things like that. Yeah. So that's it.
So, well, that's a lot of things that you can find. That this can be from boring to interesting if you like these random things, or to learn a little about everything, which is helpful if you need to do development in many areas. We find, of course, that there are more components that you can learn. So therefore, one conclusion from here is don't try to learn about everything, because it's changing so fast, and there are so many things that probably it cannot be understood by a single person. So instead, I think you should create more tools and ways to explore the code anytime you need it. There are many teams and projects cooperating, and not even from edX, but from all the projects that are included in OpenEDX, like Django and all others. Each setup is different, so what you saw in the servers probably changes. We were using OpenStack, but in AWS it's maybe different services. And of course, it's very, very useful that we can actually do all this of learning about the code, using it, modifying. So that's also something that OpenEDX is teaching us, that we can do all this in the code, that it's free software. So it's encouraged to play and hack the code. So, well, that's what we wanted to speak about. So now, if you want to discuss anything, so thanks. Yes, so the question is what are the most confusing parts? Of course, I cannot answer because I didn't see all the parts yet. I found many confusing parts, but it's just the ones I work with. Depends also on whether you started recently or not. If you are starting recently with edX, of course you will find dev stack problems everywhere. Like trying to run your first servers with Vagrant or Docker, you will find that very confusing. Later, when you start already with the code, well, for the code I used, I found it more complex, the kappa problems architecture, for instance. But probably it depends. It depends with every person. So it's true that some components are more complex than others. I can speak about the kappa ones, this long kappa problem, but I don't know if you will agree. You can exchange experiences also.
So in the list, front end CoffeeScript. Now with ES5, ES6, now in full adoption, then you plan to, first of all, what version are you using, and then you plan to move away from CoffeeScript?
Yeah. Okay, the question is about CoffeeScript. I think I forgot about the details. I think it's being deprecated. Actually, if I remember correctly, when I did the first statistics, I found it. Then later, I found some commit that removed some CoffeeScript. Yeah. Left. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing the stacks. I think that was very useful. The question for you, but if you had a choice to switch any of these stacks, just one of them, which one would you pick? And which technology would you pick for? Which has been the most challenging for you?
Okay, the question is, if I had to replace one technology, which one will I choose, or which one has been the most challenging? Because I have worked much less than all the edX engineers, probably I should just follow the current changes that are happening with the architecture. In particular, the front end, rewriting many things in React, and this separation of the monolith, the edX platform, in different components. So that will be. Yes.
Can you describe your programming environment for, say, doing development with edX platform?
Which slide?
Yes, well, we can speak both.
Development environment.
Yes, the question is about the development environment to work with edX. Well, in my case, I use just a normal editor. Well, normal because it's Emacs. It's an editor which can do lots of things, but actually, I repeat, it's just an editor, and I have lots of alias and lots of programs to do a lot of grep. This thing I showed before, where I can run a grep command in less than 1 second, is very, very useful when you look for a particular class. So I use Emacs with a particular library called Helm, which can do a fast grep, and you can type class and the name of the class, and you find very fast all the classes defined on the code. So I don't use any IDE or anything. And yes.
So for things like debugging, you'll just use PDB and put a set trace where you want, or?
In my case, yes, with IPDB and Emacs. But many people feel more confident with IDEs, so it can be useful also. Yes.
Yeah, I don't use IDE too, so I use Sublime, and I recently started using Visual Studio Code, which is pretty nice. Visual Studio Code.
Yes, and Sublime, so an editor.
Yeah, it's an editor, it's not an IDE, so yeah.
But actually, to learn more about the code, you can also read it. You don't need to run it. But yes, if you want to learn more, you can do sometime reading the code, sometime trying it in the shell. Also, there are different runtimes. It's very useful also to learn more to break in the code which is running. Like you add a line in the code which is running, and then then the code stops at that particular part, and everything is already running with the right runtime. So you can do things like get an X block from the shell and get all the courses. Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks.
I have to lower.
Bueno, no sé, aburrido, pero bueno.
Se ríe, bueno.
A ver.
Great job. Great job.
It's a bit boring. I got bored.
You already heard that.
It's boring, but okay. I will not be able to take the audience for 4 minutes.
You see my email?
No,
I just wrote to you. No, I just wrote you this morning saying that maybe we meet up today. This afternoon or lunch maybe?
Yes.
Okay, great. No, in fact, I'm going to meet you. And if you're available, then maybe we can meet up around beginning of September.
I was curious.
I don't have what? I don't have phones or anything.
Oh, okay. So, but maybe I can find you easily, right?
Or email, yes, email.
Yeah, or email.
I will be here, yes, I will be.
Okay, I'll be around. So I'll try to catch up, let's say, at the beginning of the afternoon.
Yes. Okay. Where will you be? In conferences here?
Yes. So,
Do you know the time already?
well, we can check this.
Well, you don't have the time now.
This one's not very interesting, right? You want to do this? I see that one. Or maybe we can meet up at 3, let's say, because I think I'm either in Sherbrooke or Granby. Where will you be? Either this one or this one. Okay, maybe we can meet up at the end of this one then. So we have just some spare time and then we can go. Yeah? At 3, let's say at 3 p.m. in Granby?
Yes, I could be at the end of this talk.
Yes?
That's
fine? Okay.
Okay,
great. Thanks. No, I get to be
Like, I can feel like keeping things in control.
Oh, yeah. There's a back in front of
See.
You have to log him in first because he's talking.
It's okay, one for you and one for him.
And I just put this on my pocket or something. Belt is okay. That's it.
Pocket, it's on already.
We good?
And give me a second.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. That's 1, 2, 1, 2. Like this, it's fine.
Possible to hear you say a quick 1, 2 test.
Hi, test. 1, 2, perfect. All right. I'll probably be speaking higher. It comes over, perfect.
So,
how do I control? Do I have a remote? Oh, this one.
So, how does this go? This goes down, and this one.
It only goes down. I need to go in both directions, so I'm trying to learn how to use it. This one is there. Yeah, I might have to use the keyboard because this. Yeah, but this has 2 different controls, so.
Actually, the right arrow is the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was looking for
we need up and down and side to side. Okay.
All right, we can use this to just keep pushing forward, and then if we have to move side by side, we can.
If you get to the end, it jumps next?
Yeah, I know. It does jump next. So it should be enough.
Cool.
Perfect. Right? Awesome. Yeah. Are we by the clock?
Yeah, by the clock.
All right, perfect.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to introduce Felipe and Juan. They're going to talk about integrating Open edX with your website or CMS.
All right, thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Juan Montoya. I'm with edX. And yeah, this talk is integrating your Open edX site with your website. So a little bit of a forward about us. We're edX. We're sponsoring the conference this year, and also we're open source contributors. We're a service provider that has been here for almost 5 years now. And we're always trying to lower the access barrier to Open edX as a whole. So a few years back, we got into the Open edX as a service provisioning, and we have grown quite a bit in that space. So currently, we host a very large Open edX as a service platform with over 1,800 sites working in some 15 languages over the world. And that has brought a lot of learning into our process, and some of that is what I want to present to you today. So our talk is called Integrating Open edX with Your Website. So basically, we're going to talk about how we can properly integrate your standard Open edX website with some external website, or what we would call a marketing site. And the reason for this is because basically it doesn't matter how excellent edX or the CMS part of Open edX is, it will never be a one-size-fits-all case. There will always be specific needs in every initiative. So let's talk a bit about that, and we'll get into the details. Oh, thanks. So who does that? First of all, who does that? Probably you've heard about this site, a little site called edX.org. They do that specifically. And not only them, but a lot of the other large initiatives do that. It makes sense for them. And why would you? Well, there are several reasons we can think about. For once, it's flexibility. Your marketing site probably needs a lot more flexibility. You need to publish different kind of things at different times. Also, maybe simplicity. You want to publish faster. You want to be able to change everything in your landing page quickly. Or maybe you have a different development cycle or a different team working on the two platforms or a different provider even if you're outsourcing things. So for all those reasons, it probably makes sense for you to containerize and separate those two things, OpenEDX on one side and the marketing side or the website in another side. Or you probably have to, because you have to integrate with a different platform, with an existing platform that your organization has. So for any of those reasons, or maybe because you have specific needs for some other functionality, you want to build some community features into that, or you want to build some blogging features into that, this is probably a good idea in your case. And basically, CMSs, content management systems, do some things really well. So let's not try to push OpenEDX into doing these things necessarily. Things like having friendly URLs, URLs that people can remember, or search engine optimization, or tools to help you author better web content for different devices, or having hierarchies for your different contents, or rights management, things like that are probably very useful. So let's do those CMS systems do that. Let's let those CMS systems do that. So let's get into things. How to get this right from our experience? We have to consider the user's perspective and the manager's perspective. So the user one would like to have seamless UX, like seamless integration. Ideally, they wouldn't even notice that there are two different sites. That's the whole purpose. And they only want data consistency. They also want data consistency. So if at any point you have to duplicate data, it should be very consistent across both platforms. Of course, high performance. They want to be snappy, fast, quick, and in every device. And in the management side, you want to have simple management. You don't want to get yourself too dirty with this. You want your code to be maintainable over the long term. That's important. And you want to be able to choose freely whatever technology you want to choose, and the flexibility to do basically whatever it is that you need to do. So there are many ways to go about this. One of those would be to integrate it with an existing CMS. And because we are in the open source space, it's of course always a possibility to actually build it into your OpenEDX solution using some of the Python or maybe some other open source CMS tool. We're going to go for the first approach, integrating OpenEDX with an existing CMS. I know that CMS space is very popular, things like WordPress or Drupal or Joomla, and there are some other commercial products as well. So we're going to focus on one of those, basically. Okay, so how far can I go into this? We are going to show you different levels of complexity. We're going to get deeper and deeper into levels of complexity. So first of all, a quick reminder for those of you who are not so much familiar with OpenEDX. This would be like a general structure of an OpenEDX site. So you have your homepage site, then you have your /courses or your course catalog page, then you have the course about page, those pages where you put details about your courses, and your enrollment button, that's important. Then you have the login and registration forms, and then the inside pages, the inside templates, things like the dashboards, the programs, settings, username, and of course your course content. That's all in the deeper layers of the structure. And then you have 6 or maybe more what we call static pages, which are just content pages that are in the root folder for sharing some information about your initiative. That's the general structure. So we're going to get deeper and deeper into what can be accomplished when you want to integrate with a website. So the first level would be at the very the shallowest level is if you want to have a very nice and shiny landing page where you get all your traffic, like for your website. So in that case, you will need session awareness, which is the capacity of your website to know if the user has a session or not in the OpenEDX site. And you will need probably a user menu. So if there's a session, you will want a user menu to be in your website as well. And then for the static pages, you will want some redirections, because you know that OpenEDX has links to all those specific URLs built in inside the code. So you want those redirections to be in place. That's one level. Now, if you get deeper into things, you would want to replace not only the home page, but also the course about pages, because you want to market your courses, so you want to have, I don't know, different pages where you where you put information about your courses and different, I don't know, strategies for every course. So you want to replace those, and in those, probably you will need what we call enrollment awareness, which is the ability for your marketing side to be able, if the user is or not enrolled, if the course is not allowing enrollment at that particular time. So those green buttons that you see at edX.org. All right, so that's the second level. The third level of deepness in this would be for your website to have the ability to access the list of courses, to be able to dynamically go and see the list of courses and publish those. And once you have that, you will probably want things like sorting and filtering capabilities and ordering, searching capabilities, by different criteria. This goes on and on. You can probably think about what you could get out of this kind of feature. And then the deepest level of complexity would be if you really wanted your website to access some of the content that is user-specific or course-specific, even things like data from the user's profile or data from the user's certificates, grades, I don't know, course contents, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of a place we will go probably in the future, but I just wanted to mention that that may be a possibility at some point. All right, so in terms of the ways to accomplish this, I'm going to pass it over to my partner, Felipe, who's going to teach you or explain a little bit about each of the alternatives we have had in place over the years, to serve this kind of requirements.
Okay, so thanks, everyone. I'm Felipe Montoya, longtime contributor to the project, and I'm talking about the technical side of things. So how we accomplish this dream. So basically, the first level that we saw before was like the shallow waters, how we share some information and how we show the session awareness, or how we show this user menu. And the first answer is sharing cookies. So all those messages you've seen about we're using cookies in this site, that's where it actually starts being useful. So on the regular platform settings, however you're managing them, we have this setting, session cookie domain, which is normally set to star, or however you call the asterisk. So you change that from the regular setting to yourdomain.com, actually .yourdomain.com. That means that anything that is a subdomain of your domain starts sharing cookies. And this is important. It's 2018 encrypt. So in order to share cookies, you need to have secure cookies. But once you're there, you get this. You have a hash of an object of information that gives you username, it gives you links to your profile, it gives you links to your images, it gives you links to the last part of the course you were in. That's the user info. You can change this name, and if you go to edX.org, it's called prod edX user info, but you can change it to anything that is meaningful to you. And then you have the edX logged in, which is just a Boolean flag to say. Is
this inside the cookie itself?
No, those are different cookies. So edX user info is one cookie, edX logged in is a secondary cookie, or a second cookie. OpenEDX language preference is a third cookie. And then you have naturally the session ID, which is also shared between your subdomains. That one, just don't touch it. Keep it secure, but don't play around with it, because most likely you're going to change it in a way that makes the user log out of the courses session. So with this information, now it's technically possible to do that, to have a header with a menu or a footer with a menu, to have that sort of responsiveness. We'll go more into detail on how you accomplish that, but now it's technically feasible. The second part of it is just do old HTTP redirections. Make your user feel like he's seamlessly going from place to place. They should never have to go and write a different URL in the URL bar to get there. I'm listing here the most common pages that we redirect. This is from years of experience, but you normally want to redirect the privacy page, the terms of service page, you want to redirect eventually the courses page on the second level that we just talked. And even if you have more static pages, maybe you have a page explaining what your initiative does, or some special features that may belong to your site, then probably you want to remove all that from the edX platform just to make it simpler and faster and more flexible.
So you're redirecting right inside of the Nginx configuration?
We'll address just that. So, yes, you can redirect directly from Nginx. So an easy way is to go and just write your location and put terms of service redirects to yourdomain.com/tos. That's the simplest way to go. It probably requires you to log in the server, change in some settings, play around with things you may not want to play around with, or it requires deployment. So you can also change it at the application layer. This is sadly not in the upstream project, but I was talking this morning to someone who would be accepting this, and they said, yeah, we care, like, we want this in. So we will be submitting some of these changes as pull requests to the upstream project, but this basically just reads MKTG, short for Marketing Redirects Dictionary, that lets you send people off in different directions. In any case,
that would be inside of the JSON config file? Like you would,
yep, exactly.
You would append those to the bottom?
Exactly.
Can you just repeat the question for the folks online?
Sure. So if this marketing redirects object, it's read from the settings files, just the same as any other file that was before. That was the question. So yes, you read them from the same time. We tend to heavily rely on microsites, so we read them from the microsite, but on the upstream version of this will read it correctly. I just wanted to make it shorter for the slide. So that takes you to the place we were, like, the first level of integration. We had the session awareness and we had the static pages, but now we want to go further. We want to have enrollment awareness. We want to have our own course about pages. You're marketing them differently, at different speeds. Perhaps you're marketing your courses from even before the course existed on the edX platform. So you go to the deep waters and you set this flag on, enable marketing site. This is what edX does. So this is the moment where you switch into, you're completely relying on a CMS for all the marketing pages. The moment you turn that on, you also need to turn this configuration on. It's called marketing URLs, set in the same JSON file for settings, or if you're managing your settings in a different way, it's set on the same place. Basically, it sets you with a root domain, and then it sets a list of pages. There might be more than this. You can add them, not dynamically, but you can add them using your regular deployment options. And then from this root domain, you can extend that with different pages, so about, on, or tos, or you can add complete new pages for different things. Maybe your organization has a complete privacy policy that lives somewhere else. Just add it here. So now that's done, and you're relying completely on the CMS for your website and marketing integration. The collateral damage is you just lost the courses pages and you just lost the course about page. So now you need to take everything into account. I've been talking to the person responsible for this at edX, and we are working on a PR to make it less drastic so that you can transition from one to the other without losing everything. It doesn't have to be like this. It's just one if on the Python code that sends you in a different branch. But we'll be working on this shortly. So yeah, you just lost those pages, so now you really need to step up your game on the CMS. If you're using WordPress, I have good news for you. We've got your back, and we created a WordPress plugin. So for anyone using WordPress, which is the largest CMS out there, you can go and search for the EduNext OpenEDX Integrator plugin. It's available for download, and yeah, it's just like 3 clicks, and it's installed on your site. We try to be very clear with the instructions on there, but if they are not clear enough, there's no one who will fix them. We'll try to make them better. This is really easy to use, and what you get is the session awareness. So now you can interact with this using the simple CMS WordPress menu configuration options. So you drag and drop the menu however you want. So having a button that when you are logged out says login, but then if you're logged in says dashboard. You created it, and then you create sub-menu items or third-level menu items for different things. Just go play with that and make it yours. It also gives you the enrollment logic. So you want courses that say, you want buttons that find out if the user is logged in. If it is it enrolled in the course? If it is enrolled, just tell it to go to it. If it's not, invite him to enroll. That sort of thing is very simple using shortcodes, like old-style WordPress shortcodes. So using WordPress and this integration and the settings we talked before, you're in a really comfortable place now. What was the last one here? We are actually here. You already have the enrollment awareness, the session awareness for the header and logins, and you have all your pages wherever you want them. So that's pretty sweet. Just keep an eye on security. Since you are doing JavaScript requests from one site to the next, you need to allow for those sites to communicate back to the Nginx drawing board or configuration files, and you have to add this. If you're less if you're pushing less on the marketing side, you might get away without doing it, but I'm just showing them here for completeness sake. And then even deeper than that, we want to access the list of courses. We want to really capture like the marketing capabilities of your CMS. You want to group courses into programs or into tags, or you want to suggest courses in a better way or more use-aware way. So there is the course catalog, but that's deprecated, so don't go in there. edX is trying to get out of there. Just this time follow their lead. But we do have the discovery service, which is cool. So it's a replacement of the catalog service. It actually is a consolidated place where you have the course and program metadata. So you have images, you have all those things that someone wrote on a studio when they were creating the course about page. That's there. It's there for the taking. It has Elasticsearch and Haystack support built in, so you can query it for things like organization or text search. It uses OAuth 2. I forgot to update this slide, but it actually uses OAuth 2. And it's a basic Django REST framework API, so you can go call it. The downside of this is that you need to keep this index updated, which is changing. And if you get to this after it has been fixed, it won't be a problem anymore. But right now, you need to, in a regular basis, go and run this command. So basically, that block of code I'm putting there, just install it in a cron job every 6 hours, and you should be all set. What's the discovery service for? Well, it has consumers, and it feeds those consumers. So a marketing page is one consumer. edX has this page called WebView, which is used for mobile apps. It's a consumer of the discovery service. It shows in a nice way the information that's stored on the discovery service. But it's also used at the e-commerce level. So if you face this problem where the e-commerce was not showing the course image, that's because you're not using discovery as it's supposed to use. And then mobile apps could be consumers of this now. Right now they aren't because they are using WebView, but they will be soon. They are transitioning, or the future for mobile apps is to call discovery directly. So this is like the deepest level of integration you can go now. But then there's a dreamland even deeper than that. So for those familiar with the McKinsey Academy project, this is the sort of thing that was done there. But it's sort of dream your own experience, create a different dashboard, or create different user profiles, or create a community around your courses. That's all possible. It just has a lot of requirement of the APIs. I left this really plain because that's not done yet. We have no idea how that looks, but we would like to have APIs for enrollment administration. And I've heard during the conference that some of that is in the enterprise project. So I'm looking forward to go back home and just have time to play with that. Also, APIs for creation of users and management of those users, with the following use cases in my mind, but I hope you guys have way better use cases that you will later come and talk to me about those. But synchronizations of authentications. Maybe I want I already have users in my website and I'm giving some services to them there, and I want to synchronize the information between those two. Or I want to access the enrollment or the grades. I want in my website to be able to publish the certificates, maybe access the instructor profile or my team's profiles. When I'm in a cohorted course, I want to know about that. I want to access course updates. If the professor put something on the page, I want to know about that on my website and be really responsive about that. But I don't want to have all this competing with the next migration of OpenEdX. So I want that in my website. Those are the use cases that we're envisioning here. Naturally, access to the courseware components. That's like the dreamland. In that moment, you can create a complete new experience and just use OpenEdX as your backend for the courses, for the course content. So this is all dreams I have when, that's what I think when I'm in the shower. So that's it. That's where you get to the bottom. Sure. Sorry, how much time do we have?
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes for questions. Okay.
Awesome.
So using your WordPress plugin for the final rendering of a page that includes course discovery data, does your plugin have like a shortcode or something, or how are you producing the page?
Good. So the plugin right now is not supporting Discovery. That's why I talked about the plugin before Discovery was in the picture. But this is the next thing coming for it. And from the experience we've gathered so far, yes, it will be using shortcodes. It's either that, or we will have to time some sort of pulling the information to have it available in the post object and then continue from there. Those are like the two alternatives. But we are more than happy to hear from you. How would that better work for you?
Have you looked at integrating the discovery service with an existing plugin like Essential Grid, one of those like really big third-party tools?
Normally, this comes with like once you open the WordPress box. Oh, yeah. So if we're looking into integrating this, the plugin we've created with bigger plugins that let you do, like, if I understand correctly, like organizations or like more dynamic content building in the CMS. We haven't, but we are definitely looking forward to that. So far, we wanted to get a product that is usable. But yeah, normally these projects come tied with things like WP Bakery or those sort of plugins that let you do a lot of things. So we want to integrate with that. We're not planning to have a plugin that does a lot of things badly. Just one thing, focus it, and expose that to the rest of the WordPress loop. Or
Do you have a means to include some of the marketing or CMS content in the courseware?
If we have a means to include the marketing content in the courseware. This falls out of the scope of the CMS, but you do, because now you can call discovery service as well. So the moment you're integrated in the LMS, you could make like JavaScript calls to the discovery service and get the information from there. It would be rendered on the browser, but that's sort of the future, so you can definitely.
For sharing the cookies, do you have to have, just
Okay, so how does it work with cookies and certificates? If the same domain is enough, or if you need the same SSL certificate, you can use anything. As long as it's a secure, as long as it is on the same domain and has a secure connection, you can mix and match certificates as much as you need.
So we're doing the same approach that you described in the talk, but we're having a problem with the sessions where sometimes, even though the cookie is valid and still there, the Django actually logs out. So the user sees that they're logged in on the marketing page, but on the LMS they're actually not. Have you seen this issue before?
The question is, have we seen issues where the cookies are there but the actual session is not? Yes, we have seen them. On the Django side, what happens is that part of that code that's living on the session ID cookie gets matched against the sessions table in memcached, and only if it finds it there, then you have a session. Otherwise, it will ask you to relog in. If you restarted your memcache server, if anything happened to the sessions, if the user, perhaps if you have turned on the single session for a user and they went to a different browser, different computer and logged in, that can all kill the session, and you will have this disparity. Ways to fix that, a way to fix that would be to make any sort of petition, like JavaScript asynchronic call to the courses site, to the OpenEDX site, and if the cookie is gone, it will delete it for you. Normally, it only gets deleted on the logout. But yeah, we've seen that. I actually have that on the edX.org page sometimes when I'm playing around with. Yeah. Any other? Yeah, sure.
I saw some of the changes you suggested. I think there are configuration changes you're making, I guess, on the local machine that you're working with. And my question is more about how do you decide where to place those changes? I mean, you want to put the changes in the edX platform, or you want to put that in a marketing site? How do you differentiate? Because the overhead of maintaining those changes, that's what I'm more concerned about.
Okay, so how's the overhead of maintaining those changes? The changes I mentioned at the OpenEDX site or the marketing site, the website. So all the changes I mentioned are meant to be done at the LMS or OpenEDX site. For the marketing side, I am assuming that's a completely separated host, maybe handled by a different partner. It could all be the same. It could actually live on the same computer, on the same server. But I am assuming for the scope of this conference that it's a completely outside thing managed by a completely separate entity.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool. How do we do on time? Really good. Oh, good. And I didn't want to get in the way of people and lunch.
Yeah. Danger. That's important.
You're working on the project also?
Sorry?
Do you work on the project also?
Yeah. We're having a similar problem here, you know, when it comes to...
You guys have like a super complex project, right?
Yeah, it's a custom project, yeah. So I'll definitely connect with you. We can talk more. But good chat, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Yeah, definitely. But in your experience with session management, cross-queries, session management, how frequent is that?
On the LMS, you can have different packets for that session. So if you're using the memcache package, down we can have it. Okay. We use a package called Cached DB, which writes both to the database and the memcache. And then if you can find the session there, it's for